So load up on a couple cups of coffee because we got a lot coming your way today. Welcome to the almost last day of ClueCon proper, and there's training tomorrow. First of all, we will be sending out a survey to those of us that join us this year. If you can take a few minutes to answer the questions, it will help us make a conference even better. So thank you so much for doing that. Reminder, there's a grand prize being drawn today. The drawing is after Dangerous Demos. But still, everybody will be here for the demos because it's fun. So I think it's you'll be here. And for the coder games, the SignalWire application demos will be at 1 after lunch, during the lunch and learn. And before we start, with a good friend that I haven't seen in a while, actually, we'll do our drawing for, or rather, since there are still tickets coming in, I'll do the drawing after. So we'll do the drawing before the next speaker. So without further ado, well, I don't actually need to buy it, but whatever. I just can find the title of the presentation, but other than that, I don't really need. So, Dovid Bender, good friend of us. We've been in the open source community forever, and we met at so many conferences, I can't even count them. It's with Flatphone, and his presentation title is Don't End Up Like Me, and I'm very curious to hear what he has to say. So please, a big round of applause for our first speaker, Dovid Bender, and take it away.
My slide up? That's not my slide. There we go. Don't end up like me. So why do I say that? All right. Bit disclaimer, I'm a bit under the weather, so I'm a bit of a hypocrite about everything I'm about to say today because I'm going to try to talk about it, better take care of yourself. And I'm not exactly doing that, so I apologize if I sneeze, cough. I got a pile of tissues and water here. Hopefully I'll make it through without coughing too much.
No, those are for tomorrow.
I actually almost didn't make it here because I wasn't feeling well, but then I decided to rest. And surprise, surprise, I actually got better. All right, so a little bit about myself and why I'm saying you should not end up like me. What do I normally talk about when I come to conferences? So I personally hate talking at conferences. I get very nervous every single time. I've been doing this 5 years, 6 years, and every single time I get nervous. If you go on YouTube and look at AstraCon, the first time that I spoke, there was a lot of hamana, going back and forth between the slides. So if anybody else here is nervous about getting up and talking, I strongly encourage it because it's very rewarding to help others. So why do I do it? So the main reason why I get up and I speak is to help others. If you look at any of my talks and the things that I've spoken about in the past, it's things that have pained me, it's things that have bothered me, and my experience has been, just from coming to conferences before I've gotten up and spoken, is that things that have bothered me, chances are it's going to bother other people. Whether it's carriers not knowing how to handle traffic, the big tier 1 carriers, big Verizon, the big carriers, or being security concerns with attackers hitting provisioning systems, or troubleshooting, or monitoring, or making sure systems don't blow up. So everything that I've ever gotten up and spoken about was usually in one way or another hurt me or bothered me, and I figured if it's something that bothers me, then chances are it's going to probably bother other people as well. This year was no different. When they were taking talkers, there was actually presenters. There were 2 things that I was thinking about. One was talking about stir shaken, which sounded like this big problem that I couldn't tackle. I ended up working on it. It ended up being a lot easier than I thought to handle. It was just a couple of lines of code, got a cert, and it just actually worked. It was actually very, very easy. And the other talk was about my personal health. So again, the reason why I'm talking about it is because this is something that I came close to, I wouldn't say dying, but definitely going beyond the point of return of coming back and severely damaging myself. And I didn't see it coming. And the reason why I'm talking about it here is that if I could even influence one person to see the signs that I didn't see and to see what I should have seen and how I should have better taken care of myself, it'll be worth it. Like I said, I'm very uncomfortable up here till this morning. I was second guessing if this is something, a talk that I should even talk about. But like I said, my theme has always been, if something bothers me, there's a small chance that it's bothering somebody else. And even if one person could learn from this, it's definitely worth it putting myself out there, being a little bit uncomfortable, just so that other people can learn from my mistakes. So what was my life like before this started? This actually started about a year ago, which is why it resonated. It started about last year, about the time of ClueCon. So what was my life like up until this point? I would start my day pretty much every morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, besides for having a regular job, which, full disclaimer, I love my boss, I love what I do. This is not against him, this is more what I've done to my own life and how I've sort of kept on going and not knowing when to stop. So because a lot of us have side hustles and you got to make a little bit more, you got to do a little bit more, I would wake up regardless of when I went to bed, 4 o'clock pretty much every single morning. So whether I was an old man going to bed at 9 o'clock at night, or whether I was busy working on something or partying until 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock the alarm rang. And if I had a headache, I ignored it and said, no, that can't be my blood pressure. That just, you have a headache, take some Motrin and get over it. And I would work every single day till about 7, 8 o'clock. As a religious Jew, I'd go pray. Then I would spend maybe 15 to 30 minutes with the family so they remember what I look like. Then it was back downstairs to work. Working, I would say, till minimum 5, 6 o'clock, sometimes 7, 8, coming up for dinner, and sometimes going back down again. And the cycle kept, repeating itself, working over and over and over, and working very hard. Till this point, I thought if I could do it, let's keep at it. Clients are happy, the boss is happy, everybody's happy. I didn't know how to say no, so I just kept on working. I didn't set boundaries, and if a customer gets the feeling that you're always going to be available and you want to be there available for your clients, then they're going to call you at odd hours. We had one customer that had a security concern that I notified him about multiple times, but every single time they had an issue, I fixed it. So why bother fixing it if I'm going to fix it? Well, one night I was doing exercise at 8 o'clock at night. We got an alert about the security concern, ended up fixing the problems and working on it till about 7 o'clock the next morning, got a few hours sleep and went back to work. Again, if I'm not going to set the boundaries, they're going to take full advantage, and I understand why. Because if they have somebody working tirelessly, the client's going to keep doing it. Eventually, I realized I had to put some boundaries in place. As a religious Jew, so Saturday I don't work. It's funny how religion will make me not work, but till recently I didn't realize that Sunday was actually part of the weekend. I just kept on working, and then in the mix of all of this, of working a 9 to 5, and then plus doing a side hustle, I somehow managed to fight fires as well. That I actually still do. I thought I was going to cut down on that, but that's actually a stress reliever. When everybody's yelling and you're running in, I don't know, I find it rewarding and I enjoy it. So when did this all start? So sadly, this started last year. When things started going sideways was at ClueCon. So sadly, I don't have any pictures. I searched high and low for pictures. I found one picture, a personal picture, and the other parties asked me not to post it. So it's not going to be up here. As everybody knows, when you're at the conference, so during the day, you're listening to the talks to people like me dribbling up here, making contacts, talking to people, and then we still have to get all our work in. So when I got back to my room, I was working till 1, 2, 3 in the morning, slept late, woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning, kept on working another whole round, came home from ClueCon beyond exhausted, spent the weekend recuperating, rested a little bit that week, back to my normal schedule of sleeping 3, 4 hours a night, thinking I could still handle it because this has been working well for me for 15 years, so why shouldn't I keep on doing it? We have a pop in Cyprus. We had a network upgrade we had to do, so I spent the week over there, again, working nonstop. Of course, all upgrades only have to happen on the weekend because the last thing you want to do is push something on a Friday. We all know how that goes. So this was Saturday night / Sunday fun day in the data center. Shout out to my engineer there, Nazar, who was, I don't want to call him out, but sort of taking down the same path, and I'm trying to warn him not to have the workload that I have and have the same kind of schedule. But we were working on the upgrade. Everything actually went beautifully as planned, working everything. You would think I would then go ahead and say, wow, okay, we worked really hard for a week. Now it's time to chill out. But no, I didn't stop. So you can see over here, this is about 2 weeks after ClueCon. I have that little Trapper Keeper there from ClueCon. What's wrong with the picture over here? 2 cups of coffee for redundancy. Again, I kept on drinking. I kept on pushing myself. All the soda and all that caffeine didn't help. But again, my body was compensating. I thought I was working. A couple of Motrins went a long way. And again, I kept pushing myself because everything worked fine. Cyprus is not that far from Israel. I have family there. I have people that I work with over there. So I figured I would go there as well. I would visit family. I distinctly remember why I was looking at my watch, because it was 1 o'clock in the morning. I was visiting my sister. And then again, things had to get done, so it didn't matter that it was 1 o'clock in the morning. People have requests. I didn't know how to say no. And if I could get 5 more minutes of work in, I'm going to try to push myself and get even more work in. There's a theme over here. Work, no play. kept the occasional fire and this and that, but for the most part, just pushing myself beyond what I should have done to myself. Does anybody else work like this, or is it just me? Okay, good. So I'm happy I'm speaking about it. So at this point, like I said, I felt like I had to hustle because I'm doing this for my family, I'm doing it for this, I'm doing it for that. Now I will mention that when I grew up having nothing. My parents tried their best, but we grew up in government programs, and I always swore to myself that I never would, that I would do something better for myself, which is, I guess, part of the reason why I worked so hard and didn't set any boundaries, because if I don't work today, what's going to happen tomorrow? So I kept on pushing myself more and more. Again, if my body can handle it, everything is fine. I came back, so I was overseas for 2 weeks. I got back on a Monday. Everything was perfectly fine. I was feeling well. Got in sometime Monday afternoon from a long 14-hour flight. Tuesday I was working fine. Wednesday I was working fine. Thanksgiving, here's red flag number one, while you're working. But yeah, I was still working. I got up late. I remember, at 5 o'clock in the morning, had a terrible headache, realized that because I know I have high blood pressure and I was on medication for it, it's my blood pressure to the point where I couldn't even see the words on the monitor. I remember sitting there like this, straining, trying to work, and that's when I knew I had to give up. I went back to work. Rested, still didn't feel well, went to urgent care. They said, no, you need to be in the hospital, call your cardiologist. Cardiologist said, take another dose of medication, wait an hour, see what happens. Nothing happened. And yeah, this was the result of that. In my wife's words, I looked like a walking corpse. When I got to the hospital, the nurses were telling me that I could stroke out. I was 39 years old, relatively healthy, a little bit extra padding, but for the most part, I was okay, thinking that I could keep, pushing myself, and I could do more, and I could do more, and I could do more, when my body over time was telling me I had to slow down, but instead of slowing down, more Motrin, more coffee, more Red Bull. Actually, the Red Bull I cut out a little while ago, but just, again, the theme here is pushing myself more and more. I don't remember the first 3 days there. I remember bits and pieces of it till they adjusted my medication to make me feel better. I found that after my wife, they weren't sure in the beginning if I was going to make it out. I thought, coming back to it a few days later, all I remember was being on a bunch of medication and feeling better. But in the beginning, when I got in, they weren't so sure I was going to walk out, at least not damaged. And at that point, when you're laying in a hospital bed, and I will add, there were still at this point when people knew I was hospitalized for overworking myself, I got phone calls about certain issues because things can't wait. And sort of still didn't learn my lesson, because in my hospital bed, I was walking in and through fixing certain systems. I think at that point, I should have just turned off my phone and said, sorry, I can't help you. I should have worked hard. So when this happened, I had to ask myself the very uncomfortable question of, why am I doing all this? I convinced myself I'm doing it for my family. I convinced myself I don't want to end up put my kids through what I went through. But I really had to face an uncomfortable question of, why am I doing all this? I love being in the community. I love doing what I do. I love telecom. I love working hard. I get satisfaction out of doing what I do. You can see from the dangerous demos that I've done in the past where I've hit back at scammers. I love this stuff. I love fixing problems. I love getting a good challenge. I love finding, how people compromise networks, how they got in, and how we're able to get them out. I love learning new things. But at the same time, I finally had to realize that if I'm dead, I'm worthless. Yeah, my boss will make an extra couple of pennies out of me from working harder, but if I'm no longer around, then what worth am I to my family other than my insurance policy? I'm worthless. And at that point, whatever I thought I could do, whatever I thought the extra few minutes I could cram in, if it's going to cost me my health, then I'm going to stroke out and lose functionality in my body. There goes ever lifting a server again. There goes coding from two hands to one hand. There goes not being able to do everything that I enjoy. I live for my family. I live for firefighting. I live for running around and enjoying life. And what kind of life am I going to have for the few extra minutes? And what benefit did I got? So there's a few extra dollars in my bank account. I mean, at the end of the day, on my gravestone, it's not going to put my bank account balance. Hopefully, it'll say I was a nice person. I did nice things. So at the end of the day, what's it all for? So what do we learn from all of this? So number one is there's no Amazon Prime for a new heart. You know, I mean, yes, they do have transplants, but they don't really go so well sometimes. So again, why am I gonna kill myself and work, you know, super hard, realize that we only have one body and we only live once, and once that's done, you're done. And if you decide to overwork yourself and push yourself too hard, at what point, you know, is it gonna be too much? You know, realize that I can't do everything. It used to be that if I had a list of things to do and more things came up, I just 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. But it doesn't work like that. I mean, it's okay to realize you can't do everything, even if it's your live stream or your boss's live stream. You can't do everything, and at some point you have to say enough is enough. Again, I hope this is resonating. If it's not, at least this is what, you know, I went through. You have to check yourself every so often. You can't fool yourself, because if you do fool yourself, the only person you're fooling is yourself. You know, if it ends up costing you your health, and I'm paying for it now with blood pressure issues, and which will once I'm at the point where I am, it'll never go away. I know how to correct it, and exercise, diet, blah, 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 blah. I'm not making fun of it, but like, I know what I have to do, but even if I'm at the point with certain aspects of my life where I can't go back in time, but at least take care of myself, that I don't do this to myself anything more. One of the hardest things for me was to ask for help, to speak to people that are smarter than me, realizing that no, I actually don't know everything, and that other people are smarter. There were a couple people that helped me out, getting a good therapist to speak things over, and realizing, you know, what you could and can't do, and realizing what your capabilities are. And once you come to peace with that, and once you realize what you could and can't do, you actually could end up accomplishing a lot more. Delegating to others in the beginning I found very, very hard, because if it's going to take me a half hour to train you versus me doing it in 5 minutes, I kept doing it. So I hate delegating only because of the time it takes, but now I'm realizing the more I delegate and the more I train other people and the more I hand over tasks, I can actually sleep at night knowing other guys know how to do it, and that not everything, you know, falls onto me. So what specific changes have I made? So I no longer set an alarm for 4 o'clock in the morning, so I have an incentive now to get to bed at a half-decent time. And if I get up at 4 o'clock because my body decides it's rested, great, I'll get up. But if my body decides that I need to sleep till 7 o'clock, I'll sleep till 7 o'clock. Last night I actually got proud of myself, 6 hours of sleep. I actually went to bed and set an alarm for 8, woke up at 5:45, but that was my body was rested. That's okay, so long as I sleep. Some people know I have 3 cell phones. There's a reason behind it. The third cell phone is my bat phone, so I'm never completely disconnected, but customers can no longer call me at night. If there's an issue, they can open up a ticket, they can get hold of the NOC. If the NOC decides that it's a big enough of an issue that they have to wake me up, that's what the number is there for. I have select clients that don't abuse this, that if I know they're calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's a problem, I will get up. That is my job. Ultimately, responsibility comes to me, so if there's a problem, I have to fix it, and I have no problem doing it. But unfortunately, what I had to learn was that not everything is my problem, and I don't have to always be around. And I have a team behind me, and the more I train them, the less that's going to end up falling on me. I slowly cut down on my workload. I was discussing these slides with my wife, and one of them is, you know, Sundays I started slowing down. She goes, no, you haven't. You still work till 5 o'clock. I'm like, okay, I'm a work in progress. Let me say I'm slowing down. So at least I'm recognizing that I have to slow down. I work now Sundays till 2, 3 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock, and I start at 9 o'clock instead of starting at 4. So easy little baby steps. I'm constantly reevaluating and adjusting my priorities as needed. So if things come up, like I said, I used to go ahead and think I have to get everything done. So if something urgent comes up that can't wait, well, something else is going to have to get bumped out. And I have agreement with my wife that 6 o'clock comes, I'm done working. Unless all hell is breaking loose, it is what it is. If things go sideways, they go sideways, I'll work on it. But if systems aren't down and a customer needs to be provisioned, if it's not urgent, it's going to wait till tomorrow. If we're working on a systems upgrade and we're testing and I run into an issue recently we're working on an upgrade now when there was an issue with the way the database was set up. Instead of pushing myself like I used to because I want to figure this out today because the schedule says we have to do the upgrade this weekend. Sorry, boss, it's not happening. We're going to push everything off because, again, if I'm sick and not around to do it, there are going to be 0 upgrades. So I'd rather push it off a week and be healthy than get sick and not push it off. Another thing that I do is I try to play a little bit more. So I try to find interesting projects to work on, you know, getting back to what I enjoy, what I like doing. And I actually found that I forgot how valuable, sleep is, that when I actually sleep a full night, I feel rested. I end up getting more done than if I try to cram in an extra hour or two the day before, then the next day I'm exhausted, and then I lose 8 hours versus losing 2 hours before. And it took me a very long time to realize this. Like Saturday nights, I have a hard time falling asleep because I'm too rested over the weekend, and I used to push through, which is great. I got a few hours of work in, but now my Sunday's messed up, now my Monday's messed up, now my Tuesday's messed up. So if I can't fall asleep at night, it's 1 milligram of melatonin and go back to bed. It's no longer, hey, I'm up, I could get more work in. Like I said, it's a lot easier to work on stuff when you're relaxed than looking at cup number 9 of coffee espresso, pushing yourself. Like I said earlier, delegating was harder. It was easier to go ahead and get other people. It was easier to do everything myself than to get other people to do it. But the more I delegate and the more I work on myself, the more I realize that taking it easy and working less may seem counterproductive to getting things done, but it's actually a way of getting a lot more done. So my conclusions is, don't be like me. Well, don't be the former self like me. Sadly, it took me till 39. I just turned 40, and I'm realizing that, yeah, I'm probably at the halfway point, and the main thing is not to look at what I've done. It's more to see the signs of my body telling me to stop, and realizing that, and moving forward, figuring myself out and making sure that I don't keep repeating the same mistakes. I will admit 6 months ago I had pneumonia because, again, I was pushing myself a little bit, but the second I got sick, as opposed to pushing myself to where I was out of it, I saw myself getting sick, called up my boss and said, all right, I'm done. I'm taking the next 3 days off. It is what it is. And told my clients, my side hustle as well, if I keep working, I apologize, but I'm not going to be available. Another thing I've got to stick in is that I pace myself now. So if I know I'm working on a side hustle where it's going to take me 2 weeks, I now say it's going to take me 2.5, 3 weeks. So if things come up or if I'm not feeling well, I have that. I think that was one of the most important things that I did, where I didn't spec everything out to exactly how long it was going to take me. Add 20, 30, 40%. The worst thing that's going to happen is you tell a client it's going to take 3 weeks, they hear me and they get upset. And if it takes 3 weeks, great, because you got sick, great. But if it gets done in 2 weeks, now you're the hero because you got it done early. Treat your body. You only have one body. Treat it well, and it'll treat you in kind. So the more you take care of yourself, the more you'll feel you'll be able to do more. And unfortunately, I learned the hard way, so I just hope nobody else here has to. And that's it. I don't say any questions, but I hope nobody has any questions. Unless they're going through the same thing, we'll talk to you later. Nope.
Thank you so much, Dovid. And we're always happy to see you, especially now that we heard the story. Thank you for joining us. Great. So let's see what the magic binder and the secret of planning holds today. So first of all, we'll do the drawing. So drawing is for a Frisbee book. There's Frisbee training tomorrow, so unless you plan on reading the whole book overnight, come join us for the Frisbee training. It's going to be actually faster. To the Frisbee book's not here, so we'll get it from the desk. And then we have a T-shirt and a SignalWire water bottle. People still trickling in. So while we got some tickets in, few more announcements. Keep an eye out for the ClueCon 2023 email. It's going to be we'll be back in August, usual dates, and we'll be at the Drake Hotel. And there will be an extra $50 off if you register in the first week. So keep an eye out for that. And a reminder for everybody, this afternoon there will be the SignalWire Roadshow. And, well, that's from 3 to 5, and for 4 to 6, SignalWire sales will be waiting for you at the Palm for drinks. Just come have a drink on us, chat us about your use cases, and we'll be super happy to help you get your applications going. And, well, we're looking forward for you. And what else? I'm going to start with. Okay, so I'm just going to have the drawing after this gentleman enters the tickets, otherwise it's going to take us. It is an involved process. These ones are the one you keep. Get a shake. And there we go. Drum roll. So this fell out, so I'll just get this one. Number 320414. 320414. No. Oh. Oh, hi. Oh, you're okay. So for the next drawing, so we don't have a winner. So I'll grab one from the bottom, and it's going to be 3-8. Oh, we have a winner. Okay, so 3-8-0. Sorry. You can still come have drinks later. Oh, I am so tired. There you go. Made me stay up far past my expiration time. Congratulations. Good. So let's move on to the next speaker. Because again, all of these people are just great all around, and Maksym is doing some work that I greatly appreciate because I love testing and I love automated testing. So Maksym Sobolyev is the co-founder and CEO of SignalWire Software, and his presentation title is Voice over IP Tests. What is it, and how can it be used in a telco environment? And I think it's really interesting because testing is at the heart of being able to sleep at night and not have to wake up at 4 a.m. So I'm all ears. A big round of applause for Maksym, and take it away.
Okay, sorry guys, give me a second. I'm trying to figure out my slides. It's not working. Come on. Okay. Give me a sec. All right. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for attending my talk. It's my second time at ClueCon, and as the previous speaker, I also get a little bit nervous, especially talking to a new audience. So hopefully it won't be too painful for you guys. I would like to thank organizers and everyone else involved. Pretty nice event. I like it very much, and I hope it will be interesting. My presentation will be interesting. Now, since it's kind of seems like a running team here, I also have a little confession to make and a little quiz actually. So the confession about me is I got a problem with throwing away like old clothes, and that's kind of getting laughed at by my girlfriend. The quiz here is how do you guys can you figure out how old this shirt is? Anyone? I have a prize, so 10, a little bit more than that. 15, yes. Oh, anyway, that's yours, sir. I got it in 2008 for IT Expo show, and it was our first trade show we participated in, and it was pretty fun. Anyway, going back to my presentation, here is a little agenda that I want to talk about today. I'll start with talking a little bit about myself and what we do. I'll talk about continuous integration in general. I'll also go over specific problems with implementing continuous integration for SIP products and projects. And then I'll talk a little bit about actual projects that we developed which we call VoIPTests, which I think helps us a lot and we hope will be useful for some of you guys here and everywhere anyway. And I will give some recent developments, current status, and future plans for this project. So, first of all, how it all started. I fell in love in about 2003. The SIP was pretty new protocol. Everyone got excited about it, and it was about the time when I finished my school and was looking for things to do in my life. So I immediately fell in love with it, and we started looking at ways to implement it for my employer. So we found SIP Express router, and it was still pretty early code, but it looked very promising. So we started working on it. There was no NAT support, so we created NAT helper, then followed up with RTP proxy. And then it kind of rolled out from there. So we created our own SIP stack, B2BA. And eventually I founded my own business in 2006, and it keeps me busy since then. So I've been to pretty much all continents, and it's been pretty good. And I'm father of 3, which is also kind of cool. Now, what is the SIP software? Like, we develop a complete class 4, class 5 turnkey solution, targeting small and medium these days size of ITSPs, call centers, CLEX, and guys like this. Our product is we focus on reliability and affordability of the solution and the cost of ownership. So I think we are pretty competitive in that area. As I said, we have a lot of customers all over the world, and the business is self-sustainable from the day one. We have around 20 people right now, and we are hiring. So if you guys into the VoIP and know Golang by any chance, give me a shot. Now, since we're at open source conference, it's about as much I would going to talk about CP. Talking about open source that we do at CP, we look at it not really like, we heard some of the different business models people have for open source, like there is like SignalWire, there is QSIP, other folks. For us, we view open source as a social contract for us. It's like, I mean, if you want to live in a nice environment, you basically need to do something so it stays nice and clean. So it's the same with open source for us. Even though all our products that we sell are not open source themselves, but over the years, as I said, we developed a bunch of tools which we try to open source if possible. And some of those tools I already mentioned, NAT helper, RTP proxy, we have B2BA. We also developed mod Python for Camellia OpenSIPS. I think it was the first like foreign language module, if I'm not mistaken. There is also RTP cluster, which allows you to build bigger systems out of several RTP proxy nodes. And this project that I'm talking about is VoIPTest. And we also have Go version of our SIP stack and Go version of RTP cluster. And the latest big contribution, I think, was RFC 8760 support for OpenSIPS, which allows using modern digest authentication methods. Now, the problem we started, as I said, for us, we focus on in our day-to-day work, we focus on our product, obviously. So open source for us as a tools, but we want those tools to continue working with as little effort as possible for us. And with the growing number of those tools, it became quite challenging at some point because, for example, if we're talking about RTP proxy, now we have Camellia, OpenSIPS, there are like a bunch of versions, and we are not using all of them. Obviously, in our product, we're using only one specific version, so how do we make sure that it continues to be compatible with all those other versions and flavors that we are not particularly using? And it was about the time that continuous integration started becoming more affordable, I would say, with the Travis CI in 2015, I believe, they started giving like open source folks free plans. So we immediately got interested how we can use it. But now the problem, how we actually test it. And hold on. How many of you guys have not heard about continuous integration or don't know what it is? Okay, that's pretty good number. So I'll go pretty quickly over this. So what is continuous integration? It's more like a suitcase term these days, but basically it's about automating the build of your product or project and making sure that some tests run every time you make a change. And then there is also some policies that you're expected to put around your code. Not everyone implements all of it, but this is actually from Wikipedia. So that kind of led us to start thinking how we can use this for testing. As I said, we particularly was interested to test RTP proxy against like bunch of versions of OpenSIPS Camellia, but also we have ability to connect RTP proxy directly to CP B2BAs. So we have at least four products that can work with RTP proxy, and there are at least 4 other options that you can use for communicating to RTP proxy. So we wanted to test all of them. And this is the scheme, more or less scheme that we came up with. So we basically have Alice and Bob on the other side, and they send calls to each other. We basically do the RTP proxy scene, and the Bob will verify that the call has actually been properly handled, so media IP has been replaced, and everything looks good. And then the problem is, what do we use for Alice and Bob? So we considered few options. There is, everyone knows SIPP probably, like if you work with the SIP. It's pretty flexible tool, but it's also very low level one. So you basically working at the level of individual SIP packets, and building advanced scenario is not very easy. There is also tools like PGA SIP UA, which is basically just command line SIP user agent. It's very easy to use. It's just one command and several parameters. But it's very not flexible. So there are a number of scenarios that you can implement using it is very limited. And adding new scenarios would require us to basically write C code or something. There is also obviously OpenSIPS Camellia, which you can use to initiate calls and receive calls. But those tools are pretty flexible, obviously, and you know this. But creating scenarios, again, it would require like a lot of knowledge of domain-specific language, and it's very, very specific to that particular product. There is also free switch and asterisk, which you can potentially use for this. But unfortunately, both of those products, and with all due respect, they have pretty simplistic SIP backend. So basically implementing something beyond just answering call might be a little bit tricky. And also there is bare SIP now, but people say it's nice. I never tried it yet. So that were our choices, and that kind of led us to see if we can build something out of our own SIP stack. And that's exactly what we did. We created this VoIPTests, which builds upon SIP stack, and it's pretty much Python code, just implementing pretty flexible UAs for Alice and Bob. And then the test looks pretty much like this. So we generate config, we start RTP proxy, start whatever we are testing, like OpenSIPS, Camelio, B2BA, and then run our Bob and Alice and wait for them to complete the procedure. There is we wrote like 25 scenarios for different cases. Most of them are pretty simple. Like you just making a call, you answering the call, you hang up, and you're expecting certain results, so duration, or maybe you cancel it before it gets answered, and stuff like that. And so basically, Alice sends those invites, Bob receives them, and based on request URI, it will do something and expect other side to do other things. Well, its own part. All scenarios run in parallel, so we basically don't spend a lot of time. So basically the whole run takes only as much time as the longest scenario, and it's usually like 2 to 3 minutes. I think even less. And there is a bunch of shell scripts to just bundle it all together, get the results, and produce the logs. It was pretty good. It worked for a number of years, and then Travis decided to kind of go all commercial. So we moved it to GitHub Actions at some point. And then we also, about 2 years ago, when I started working on my OpenSIPS patches for FC 8760, we also needed something to test those scenarios, because there are a bunch of ways you can do authentication in OpenSIPS Camelio. There is like database, you can, a lot of stuff, and it was really difficult to kind of do it all manually. So I extended it a little bit, and now we can also test this functionality, and it helped a lot, really a lot. It ended up with a pretty massive patch, which we committed last year. And the scenarios are still running, so hopefully it will keep it working. And then some of the recent developments as well on this area. We've seen our CP-B2BA has been used by a third party. This guy, Richard Chan, I think his name, he used it to build his own CPUA to test his Wolf SSL support for Camelio, which is pretty cool, because we did not speak to guy, or he just took it and created. So we're talking with him, and hopefully we'll merge some of his patches pretty soon as well. Anyway, I'll give you a little demo of how it looks on GitHub. So basically, VoIPTests itself, it's a meta repository. It does not include actual code for the CP stack. It pulls everything from the respective repositories. And so here we have several workflows. I don't know, you guys hopefully can see it. Yeah, so as I said, we we built several scenarios. First, those original ones that test RTP proxy in different configurations. So here you see we testing Camellia versions all the way down to 4.51, and we're testing all kinds of ways it can communicate with RTP proxy. And within each of those runs, we run those 25 scenarios one time for IPv6 and one time for IPv4 each. And yeah, as I said, it takes around 5 minutes to complete, and then we do similar thing for OpenSIPS as well, and then it also repeats for B2BA as well. And we're testing here. We're testing not only different versions of the way to communicate with RTP proxy, but also we're testing different versions of Python. So it basically gets tested against everything under the sun. And it's pretty cool. And there is also, as I said, there is also RFC 8760 specific test. I don't think we have this support in Camellia yet, so it's only for OpenSIPS at this point. But we would love to add Camellia as well as soon as they get supported. Yeah, so that's a little demo, and you guys welcome to poke around that code as well. It's as easy as just cloning the repository. You'll get your own private actions, and you can basically play with it to your heart content. Come on. Okay, back to presentation. Yeah, some of the future directions for this project. We would love to make it usable for other open source or closed source. It's BSD licensed. Everything we do is as open source is BSD licensed, so you can definitely use it in whatever way you want. We want to implement most scenarios, and those are pretty much we do it on kind of case-by-case basis. Each time we hit some interesting bug, we try to implement some scenario. Adding documentation would probably be pretty critical. And as I said, there is some patches to add TLS and TCP support. There is also idea. Right now we're only testing signaling part, but adding some media support would be interesting, and it should not be too difficult as well. Going beyond like using it on GitHub Actions, maybe like web UI, some live status would be nice. And last but not least, since we have like our Go stack is pretty much mirroring the Python version, adding Go version of VoIPTests would be also quite interesting, because then it can be used for serious load testing. Right now we are you can probably use it up to like 200 CPS or something, unless you run several copies, in which case you can scale it up this way. And yeah, that's about it about VoIPTests. So if you guys have any questions or any, give me a shot.
Okay. Hi, Max. Thank you for the presentation. So you said that VoIPTests is integrated with OpenSIPS, Camellia, and back-to-back UA. So my question is, let's say on year after year, how many reports do you find that VoIP tests catches, and which you then feed back to the respective projects, right? Like, hey guys, you broke the RTP proxy integration, or the some call flow or some specific command to the RTP proxy that is not working anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think there was at least several cases where something got broken, at least on the OpenSIPS side of things. And we also break a lot of things internally, so it also serves as a good test bed. When we work on RTP proxy, we're implementing some new functionality, but sometimes we inadvertently break something like that was working like since the beginning. So yeah, it's kind of both ways. More questions? All right, I think we're good then. Thanks, guys, again. And, yeah.
Thank you very much, Maksym, for joining us. Big round of applause. Good. So, well, made all the announcements earlier, so I'm just going to go into the next speaker, which is our good friend, Lucas Beeler from Hazelcast. Oh, here he goes. Oh, while it comes in, reminder, there's roadshow this afternoon. We're going to have a lot of fun. And don't miss Dangerous Demos. James Bodie himself is here, is waiting for your demos. And crash and burn as much as you can, because it's the most fun part. Although if something works, it's even better. So we can get the best of both worlds, right? What else is going on today? Oh yeah, and we have a drawing for a invisibility cloak later. It's perfect for those meetings you don't want to attend. Just disappear from you and nobody will ask you to join. And there we go. So welcome, Lucas. And his presentation title is Best Practices for Human Mobility and Real-Time Machine Learning. Oh, fun. I'm curious. Big round of applause for Lucas. And take it away.
Okay. Hey, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. This is actually my first time at ClueCon. The other thing that I'll add is that I was not originally supposed to give this talk. Our company's developer advocate, Fawaz, my colleague, was supposed to, but unfortunately he came down with COVID. So I am here. I'm the company's principal architect. We are a mid-sized startup, about 150 employees, based in Palo Alto, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley. Today I'm here to tell you about the best practices that we've developed around using our platform for real-time insights in mobility, telecom, and Internet of Things, including industrial IoT. The basic kind of outline of this talk is, number one, what is the Hazelcast platform? As I said, we are a relatively small company. Not a lot of people have heard of us. Raise your hand if you've heard of Hazelcast. Okay, you're my hero. Great. Next, a question I often get is, where can I deploy Hazelcast? Can I deploy it at the edge in an edge gateway? What kind of footprint will it run in? Can I deploy it in my own data center? Can I deploy it in the cloud? Is it cloud native? Does it run on Kubernetes or OpenShift or any of the standard container orchestration platforms? The answer to all of those questions is yes. I'll get into that a little bit more. We'll then talk about some real-world examples of Hazelcast use cases. We have a great one from industrial IoT, and then one that I think you guys here will really appreciate because it's from industrial telematics. We're actually doing connected vehicles in an industrial setting to reduce accidents. I'll also talk briefly about what other kinds of solutions you can build with Hazelcast, and finally, how you can learn more about Hazelcast. The one thing that I did want to say before I move forward is that The core of the Hazelcast platform, as anyone familiar with Hazelcast knows, is fully open source. It's licensed under Apache 2.0. We have a long open source heritage, and we were an open source project long before we ever became a commercial entity. And to this day, almost anything that I talk about, if I talk about a particular connector, like our Kafka connector, it's pretty straightforward. We're, as I said, an incredibly transparent company with an open source heritage. So if you just Google Hazelcast Kafka connector, you can see our documentation on it, and I believe the code for the connector. You can even see the GitHub project page for it. Here's the Kafka Hazelcast connector. With that said, I think I've said enough about what I'm going to talk about in our company culture, so let's kind of dive into the meat of this. We found that the real formula for success in a lot of sort of real-time areas in mobility, telecom, and IoT is the combination of high-performance stream processing with real-time machine learning. And by high-performance stream processing, we basically mean a true stream processing engine. So something like Spark or Flink or the Jet API within Hazelcast. There are two APIs in Hazelcast. I'll talk about them each in turn. But the basic idea is, you have this continuous stream of business events. You want to clean that data, filter it, do format conversion, ETL type operations on it. We have a lot of people in industrial IoT, right? That they have these ancient machine tools where they get data in some weird CSV format and they want to convert it into something like JSON or something that's semantically meaningful from a business standpoint, right? And then perform ML inference on that. And that's kind of what our platform is really about. The two APIs present in the Hazelcast platform are first what's called the Fast Data Management API, which is also known as the IMDG or in-memory data grid API. So this is, we're a clustered solution, and we try to store as much of our data in memory as possible. It is durably persisted optionally, but if you don't have any need for persistence and you just want in-memory speed, we can easily deliver that. The fast data management layer is queryable through a SQL interface, even though it's an object store. You can think about it basically as being like a NoSQL database that stores as much of its data as possible in memory and will optionally tier to disk. And then, as I discussed, there's also our streaming compute API, which does all of the basic things that you would expect a streaming compute layer to do, like transform data from one format to another, which would be a map operation. You can also do a flat map operation. You can filter data. You can combine data in various ways, including rolling windows, sliding, tumbling windows, aggregates like rolling averages if you want to smooth telemetry or sensor data over time. This is very useful for things like quality of service metrics. And the other kind of cool thing that you can do is you can actually query the, if you want to think about the fast data management layer, we call it the IMDG or in-memory data grid API, the G in grid simply coming from the fact that it was designed as a distributed solution from the ground up. But just think about it as an in-memory database, basically. But you can query the in-memory database during a stream stage. The streaming compute engine is designed on a directed acyclic graph computational model, and you can actually see the visualization of the DAG here. And obviously, each vertex in the DAG is a compute stage. That could be a data transformation, filtering, or it could be a combination of a kind where you do an enrichment. And that's what I was going to say is kind of cool about having the operational data store, the in-memory operational data store, fused with the streaming engine, if you are doing something like predictive failure analysis for network devices, which is what one of our large customers in telecom does, and you have some kind of part of your wireless network infrastructure, and you try to detect anomalies about its behavior. Is its core temperature too warm or something like that? And what you might get is a device UUID, and you want to do a query to get a full set of information about the device, like what's its manufacturer, what's its model, what's its firmware revision, et cetera. You can actually query the operational data store layer from inside of a stream processing stage. So you could see that as mapping from device UUID, or in the sense of a mobile phone, an IMEI ID, into a full record about kind of semantically important information about that device. Lastly, I'll talk about this ML inference stage and how our ML inference runner operates. I'm just going to call it out now and then talk about it a little more down the road. But these are the two core components of the platform. Along with that comes an ecosystem of connectors, right? And these are connectors for, I mentioned the Kafka connector, but also for legacy message queues. The IoT connector is basically an MQTT connector. It's very easy to build your own connector, hence the custom connector, and we have a lot of sort of GitHub starter projects for this sort of thing. But the connector ecosystem is a big part of our overall, I think, product value proposition. One example use case I'll say that I mentioned kind of before is device anomaly detection, right? So you have a network device somewhere, and you want to figure out, is it behaving aberrantly, or is it likely to fail? So think about failure prediction and asset performance management, right? So you have this continuous stream of events that come in, and those go into the stream processing pipeline. The stream processing pipeline can execute through its machine learning inference runner any number of ML models, and those models can be written in Python. In Java, obviously, we're a JVM-based solution. They can also be written in native code in C++ that's accessed through the Java native interface. And then you'll often see results of stream processing results output to the in-memory storage layer. So that was the operational data store that I talked about, the in-memory data grid that's one of the two APIs in the product. Then you'll see it'll say clients microservices. So imagine you're building a dashboard of all the things that are happening, a dashboard inside of your NOC, your Network Operations Center, let's say, of things that are happening on your network, right? You can detect anomalies using the stream processing engine, but the question is, how do you build the web backend for alerting and things like that? And we would say that instead of using a traditional relational database where you have to deal with wrangling something into a schema, inserting it into a database, then you have an application server, your Tomcat, or if you're in the Python world, Flask, Django, whatever. Just forget about that. Just use the Hazelcast platform, and the operational data store and the streaming engine are integrated, and there's clients, as you can see along the top, for Java, .NET, C++, Node.js, Python. We've got a Go client now, as well as pure JDBC, which will allow you to kind of treat the fields in an object as virtual columns, so it'll create a virtual relational representation of your data. If you're interested in, as I said, in the same way that many RESTful endpoints are backed by relational data sources, it's pretty simple to take a Tomcat server and put a JDBC connector in there and then access data. Well, You don't actually need to be JDBCing against a relational database. You can do it directly against Hazelcast. A little bit about our kind of some of the ways that we figured out how to do real-time machine learning well. One of them is that we have a very high-performance stream processing engine, and I'll show you some actual metrics around that came not from us, but from actually a third-party academic study that was conducted by some researchers at Cornell that looked at stream processing tools available in the industry. But we emphasize our interoperability with kind of ML runtimes, very heavily, right? And we see machine learning as a core part of the stream processing or streaming analytics process. And one of the things that we've worked very hard to do is overcome this sort of impedance mismatch between the fact that most data science out there is done in Python, but then most of the actual data engineering that you do tends to be done in Java. So even though we are a Java solution and Hazelcast itself runs in a JVM, one of the things that we figured out how to do is to do a totally managed Python execution environment. It's not Jython, it's not Python on the JVM, it's actually CPython. And we will spawn as many CPython VMs as you have cores. So if you have a 2-core machine, you'll get 2 CPython VMs. If you have a 4-core machine, you'll get 4 CPython VMs, and this overcomes one of the problems with Python, which is, of course, the single interpreter lock, which basically makes Python a single-threaded language. And of course, this is controlled and coordinated through the Hazelcast DAG planner, which plans the directed acyclic graph, which you could think of as sort of like a query optimizer in a database. But to see some numbers, the Hazelcast Jet streaming engine with no parallelism and then to 4 cores basically scales linearly, and this is a scikit-learn random forest model that we're running. So the next thing that I'll point out is that when you get into very significant Hazelcast clusters, this was 45 nodes, and it was running in AWS on, I think, C5, 9x large instances. We were able to do 1 billion transactions per second, and the P99 latency percentile was 30 milliseconds, right? So predictable latency and extremely high streaming data volumes. Of course, this is in a giant data center. You might also wonder, well, where else can I deploy Hazelcast? Can I put it at the edge? Yes, you can. We regularly deploy in these edge gateways, right, where we take data. You notice the add link one over here. I love the number of ports on this thing. Like, it even has like an RS-432, the kind of exotic, serial port from the mid-90s on there. So if you need to connect to some kind of exotic machine tool, you can do that. You can run the Hazelcast platform in the edge gateway. You can transform data that might be in a very primitive format coming off of machine tools into something that makes sense, right? Can you install it in the cloud or in your data center? Yes, you can. We can do a hybrid cloud deployment from on-prem into your cloud provider. We can do multi-cloud, one cloud provider to another. We have the Hazelcast Viridian managed service. Go to hazelcast.com and check it out. It's available on all 3 of the major public clouds. With that said, I promised that I'd get into some actual use cases. And we have about 8 minutes left, so I think this is a good time to do that. The first one I have is from is an IoT use case involving oil and gas field equipment monitoring. And so basically, edge computing cluster in truck, SigmaStream. These guys do oil and gas exploration throughout Middle America. I think most of their operations are in the Dakotas. they just drive a truck out to wherever they're doing exploratory drilling, and basically on the drills they have all the sensor data that comes back, and Hazelcast, you can see here, is a huge part of ingesting that data, pre-processing the data, doing operational storage of the data that's in the in-memory data grid layer, and then doing actual decision making. And the decision making is about when do I take a drill bit out of service? Is it likely to fail? Should I keep drilling in this area, or is drilling in this area just going to be a waste of time? Hazelcast actually adjusts the rig settings in real time. So that pipeline is not only used for analytics, it's also used for decision making. So another use case that I'll bring up here is IBM is a key Hazelcast partner. We were part of their IBM Edge application manager launch. And we've done a number of major pilot projects with them. This is one that's ongoing right now in oil and gas. As well, actually I shouldn't say this is not an oil and gas project. The customer is a global Fortune 50 chemical company, although they are based outside of Houston, Texas, and the chemical work in question that they're doing is in hydrocarbon separation. So taking raw crude oil and turning some of it into gasoline and other parts of it into plastics and polymers. Some of this happens after raw refining. It then goes into this post-processing, hydrocarbon post-processing stage. But they've had a number of high-profile safety issues at this plant with vehicles carrying explosive compounds sitting next to each other, running into each other, or hitting trains, including a number of human fatalities. So we put together, along with our partners at IBM and Nokia, an industrial telematics use case. So basically monitoring driver behavior. You've got a fleet vehicle, it comes into the plant grounds. We give the driver of that vehicle an Android phone. There's a private LTE network that's deployed on the grounds of the plant. We try to detect bad driver behavior in real time, and then we also take all of the telemetry that we collect and then send that to the cloud, so that most of the stuff that we associate with data science and kind of statistical analysis gets done in the cloud. It doesn't get done at the edge. So Hazelcast tends to do very well in these edge to cloud kind of use cases. So a vehicle comes in, we aggregate the data into the Hazelcast IMDG operational store. Our stream processing engine then runs inference on the data using a number of ML models that are stochastic. We also run some deterministic business rules. IBM Event Streams then takes it up to the Azure cloud tier, which is based hundreds of miles away. The IBM Watson ML platform allows data scientists to work with this data. And then the cool thing is there's actually this arrow here, which I will show. It comes to this point here. So as we do obviously do inference at the edge, but we can actually update these models as data scientists back sort of at the home base look at the data. It's very easy for us to push new models out, and this is entirely enabled by our partnership with IBM around IBM Edge Application Manager. And if you just Google Hazelcast and IBM's Edge Application Manager, you can read the case study, and here on the IBM page we even have a white paper that we did with IBM on how we build edge to cloud applications together. So a few other Hazelcast use cases that I'll discuss that might be relevant to some of you guys in the room are in telecom. We've got wired and wireless network monitoring. network component failure prediction, asset performance management kind of stuff. Also real-time quality of service analysis. Basically anything you can take metrics or telemetry from, and you want to turn that into insights or decisions, you can use the Hazelcast platform for. In terms of mobility applications, pay-per-mile car insurance, we've got a customer doing that. Driver behavior analysis, I kind of discussed that in an industrial setting. You could also see pay-per-mile car insurance as a retail use case for the same thing. And then real-time telematics. In IoT, industrial process control, as in the SigmaStream use case that I discussed, and then once again, failure prediction and asset performance management. I said we have a pretty robust open source community out there and a large community of developers. So here's a QR code if you're interested in learning more about the Hazelcast community. We've also got a Slack channel that you can publicly subscribe to in your Slack client. We do quite a few Twitch videos. We sponsor some meetups. We've got some great blogs, and we've got our Hazelcast Heroes program. If you build a really cool solution on Hazelcast and you want to present with us at a conference, we would love that. And I guess with the minute and 30 seconds that I have left, I'll take any question that anyone might have. Any questions? Okay, well, I guess I will give you a minute and 10 seconds back then. Thank you guys very much. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Perfect. You got it. So thank you for joining us. Good. So we're a bit ahead of schedule. We have some headwind in the middle. So maybe, we'll take maybe a 15-minute break if that's okay, so we go back to the schedule. Thank you so much. And yeah, just a 15-minute break. And what else? I have, remember there's the Dangerous Demos, already said it, and the roadshow after. Dangerous Demos start at 2 p.m. I didn't have the time earlier, that's what I want to say. So Dangerous Demos at 2 p.m., and I'll see you in 15 minutes. Thank you so much.
And we have pretzels too.
Welcome back, everybody. Took a quick break, so we line up the schedules, but it's also always nice to take a bit of rest. So, going back to, well, they're all great, but I mean, Liviu needs no introduction, but I'll still do it. Liviu Chircu is from OpenSIPS and has been, I mean, I've seen you around forever, so I don't even know when you started. And his presentation is going to be about OpenSIPS, of course. It's OpenSIPS 3.3, messaging in the IMS and UC ecosystem. So, IMS, that's super interesting. Oh, wow. Not something comes up very often. So, big round of applause for Liviu. And all yours.
Thank you for the introduction, Luca. Okay, let me. Hi, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. It's always nice to be here at ClueCon and get the opportunity to learn so much from these great people that are making it possible. A little bit about me. Lucas already gave a nice introduction. I've been working with OpenSIPS for almost 10 years now, and I pretty much I'm a developer there and also help with various platforms and consulting work that we do at OpenSIPS Solutions. And today I will be, one second, let me reset the timer here. There we go. I'll be giving you an update on what's been happening in OpenSIPS in the last year, what we've been working on, and kind of what we see the direction to go with for this release. Because if you haven't noticed the pattern yet, we try to come up with a theme each year. We push out a new release. And this year it was this nice bundle of acronyms, right? IAM, MSRP, RCS, UC, IMS, right? And we'll kind of see what we did in each of these areas, as well as other features that I hope to have enough time to talk about. I've got a lot of slides. So kind of a high-level overview on how the RCS deployment is being seen right now. This is a study from Juniper Networks in the first half of this year, and they say that they foresee the market, the RCS subscriber market, to grow pretty wildly in the upcoming years. Up until 2026, it will reach 3.2 billion. So that, coupled with some other suggestions from various community members and all that, and made us choose the topic, right? Because first of all, instant messaging had been quite neglected during all of these years, right? We had the message method support, and that was pretty much it. It is becoming more and more important with the emergence of RCS, and also having support for the advanced communications with advanced messaging will also be useful for unified communications. And this is, hopefully you can see the fonts here, but this is kind of a high-level overview on the areas and the modules and kind of server applications that we've architected for this release, and I will be touching on each of them throughout the presentation. So first we'll start with the work we did with IAM, and then on the UC side, and also we pushed things further a bit on the IMS as well. So first with the instant messaging, typically, as I was saying, we had sorry for the pops, we had the pager mode support since forever, right? This is maybe early 2000s since this RFC was written. It's a kind of a standalone messages, right? Just SMS and no state in between. That's how a message like that would look, right? That's what we had. But with RCS, there is a need for more. There is a need to establish a session that enables you to have more sophisticated services, such as read or write receipts, right? Let me go to the next slide. Here we see right, you have your group chat. By the way, this is RCS. It's not WhatsApp. So it's kind of, you can think of RCS as a turbocharged SMS, right? You already have it, so it's going to be bundled in your phone. There is no need to install any application. And like on the Android side, it's being supported, like Google is pushing it forward. And maybe on the Apple side, it's kind of being discouraged, right? Because Apple has the iMessage application, right, which is the WhatsApp equivalent. And if they were to push things forward on the RCS side, it would be counterproductive for their iMessage. So they don't support RCS anyway. So this is I think it's Google app, and those are read receipts, and also all the stuff we see on the OTT apps like WhatsApp and these kind of apps, they will be fully transferable to RCS applications like native group chat, native file transfer, photo sharing, and all that stuff. And all of this is done through this MSRP session protocol. Sorry. If you see in the diagram, it's established with a SIP invite. So it's like a normal call. Let's take a look. I'll skip over this slide. Yeah. So we have an application SDP, and we have some subtle differences in there, like an MSRP URI, and some session IDs, and the participants establish these sessions. And once it is established, they will proceed to send MSRP packets. For example, here it's a send method, and that is how an MSRP message would look like. Hey Bob, are you there? And on the OpenSIPS side, we kind of broke it down. So this is an implementation, some implementation details. We broke it down into a few layers. So towards the bottom, you have the protocol level, right? Just like we have Proto, TLS, WSS, SCTP, all of that. Now you will notice in the OpenSIPS 3.3, Proto MSRP. And on top of it, there are a couple modules. One is the relay. Then there's user agent, and building on top is a gateway. I will go through each of them and just kind of run you through how they work. So with the relay, it solves the problem of having to do digest authentication. This is a kind of it's in the MSRP RFC that you have to do this if you're relay, and the module gives you these nice hooks into the OpenSIPS script on, let's say, the ingress, right, where you have to do the authentication. That is the MSRP auth route. And like even going even more specific, it's just like subscriber authentication. So if you've done that with the right www challenge functions and provisioning, that will be the same code is being reused for this authentication as well. So you should be comfortable setting it up. And on the egress, there is also a route helping you take decisions and giving you access to the message that is being sent out. So that's the relay. On the user agent module, we give you the necessary hooks and API functions to start sessions, manage them, both from the OpenSIPS script and let's say externally. Maybe you have, let's go maybe through a call flow, and this you'll understand better. Maybe you have a web application that is not MSRP based, right? And it's trying to reach a WebRTC client that is MSRP. So for this, we would use the MI interface to start the session, right, on the outbound leg, and then OpenSIPS, the user agent module, takes care of establishing the invite, the 200 OK, and now we have the MSRP session with the WebRTC client. And now when your web app, right, the users type the message, each of them is translated into this MI function that on the other leg is nicely transferred into converted into an MSRP send, and so on and so forth. On the other direction, obviously the send messages will be converted to, not that obvious, into events that you can capture in your OpenSIPS script, so you can feed them back to the application. And towards the end, we need to end the session, so that is the end session function. So on the other direction, right, where we try to contact the application coming in from the MSRP client side, this time we have a script function, which is the MSRP UA answer, which takes care of establishing the session, right? Because you have an invite in your script, pretty much. And it is MSRP based, which will also raise this session new event in the script, so you can contact the application. And of course, on the other direction, it's the other slide, right? We send the message, which gets converted to MSRP send. So that is with the user agent. And you might have noticed there is also a gateway in there, the MSRP gateway. So the idea with the gateway was that we would like to offer the possibility for you to also hook in the the SIP clients which don't handle MSRP, right? Which simply do like regular message-based SMS. So we wrote this module that converts these clients into MSRP sessions. So it's kind of an interesting concept. Let's see how a flow would look like. So let's say these clients send us a simple message which needs to be converted into a session. It's kind of an interesting problem. So when we get this message into the script, we invoke this message to MSRP function, which opens up a session on the other side that is being internally managed by OpenSIPS, such that when they send more messages, it's transparently being pushed. The session is being looked up. It pushes messages into the session, and on the other direction, we convert MSRP sends back into messages when relaying to the, let's say, simple page mode client. And there is a problem of detecting how do we close this session, right? Because the client will just stop sending messages. It doesn't have any way to, like any specific way to stop it, so, or to indicate that it wants to close the chat session. So we simply close them based on inactivity. When they stop sending messages to that peer, the session will be closed and the buy will be automatically generated. On the other direction, now we have to convert a session coming in from the from the MSRP client side. We use this MSRP gateway answer function, which converts the MSRP chat messages into regular page mode SIP message packets. And towards the end now, now that we are coming from the MSRP client, it can send a buy, right? It can manage the session and close the chat. And this one is a graceful termination. It's on demand. So that is on the MSRP work and instant messaging. And this brings me to the UC, right? If you remember, to the UC enhancements area. And here we made some additions to the call center module. We basically transform it into we like to call it a contact center. Technically, the module is still called call center if you look in the source code, but now it has these capabilities of supporting multiple communication types for the agents. And moreover, since there is this idea that an agent, right, they can only handle one call at a time, right? You cannot do more. But with chat, why can't they have 3 chats open at the same time, right? In like a call center agent. So we added support for that as well. So they can do, for example, 3 or 4 chats. But also they could not do too many at the same time. So we added these. Let me show you this diagram, right, where we have all kinds of clients sending traffic, whether it's SIP messages, regular, or session mode with MSRP. You might have RCS clients coming in, and right, it's an entire ecosystem, and they all push these calls and messages into the call center queue. So now it's a bit of an algorithmic problem where you have to balance and select the proper agents based on their available slots and that kind of stuff. So here, for example, we have 3 pending chats. They're in red, right? They are MSRP chats. All of them are calls, right, to some degree. They're just SIP invites. But some of them are audio calls. So now, for example, this is the balancing mode. OpenSIPS will just select and balance each call to each agent. But this might not be desirable because it may lock up too quickly the agents which have call capabilities, right, by giving them a chat each. So now they aren't able to take a call. So we came up with a full load balancing mode where here, if we have those pending chat sessions, we just throw them out to the first agent here, right? And then now the remaining agents are able to take up all the audio calls. But also, you could argue that this is not ideal either because now agent 1 is too loaded while agent 4 is too free. So, we also gave you the option to just do it yourself. So there are some management interface hooks, so you can fetch the list of agents, right? See how many of them are free, what kind of slots they have. And then you can fetch the list of queues. I mean, these are already there, these commands, the list queues. But now we gave you this, sorry, my font is too small here, the dispatch call to CC agent function where you decide how the queue is to be consumed. Moving on to the IMS and third area we touched on. Our first question was what do we have to do with regards to SIP in order to have support for RCS? And it turns out that RCS actually doesn't have that that many requirements, or there aren't that many like new SIP specifications tied to it. It is pretty much basic stuff that we already had, and a bunch of feature caps. If probably you're familiar with that, feature capabilities, which is honestly just a SIP header. So we support all of that already, but we gave it some thought, and maybe there wasn't that much easy control over these capabilities. So we, I can't remember if we specifically added anything, but we just documented everything as part of a blog, or how to mangle these. It's just string management. For example, when doing kind of an interconnect between RCS providers, each OpenSIPS will advertise using options the RCS capabilities it knows. So you will probably need to do some programming to mangle that header. But anyway, that's there pretty much, the whole support. And we also gave diameter some attention, and we now gave you the capability to build custom diameters from the OpenSIPS script. Not sure if you're familiar with the work done in 3.2 on the diameter side, when we added kind of the first integration with the lib free diameter project, exposing authentication and accounting via diameter messages. Now we extended that support to the point where you can build custom diameter messages. You can build, if you check out the OpenSIPS Summit presentation, there is one in which we do like a 3GPP SH application message. We build it from the ground up. So that is on the IMS and UC and all of that work and focus and central part of 3.3. But why not get into some other additions that we worked on, which first we did some addition on SDP mangling, and this is definitely a corner case, but who knows, it might come in handy. So there is this new back-to-back SDP demux module, which sounds pretty complicated, but actually it is just solves the problem where you want to send a SIP invite to a SIP session recorder server that does not support multiple audio streams. So if you take a look here, right, that is an SDP with 2 streams, and this module simply helps break down, right, demultiplex that call into 2 calls, such that the thing will work. So, and also takes care of managing those call legs and all of that. There is some presentation. Actually, you might have heard of this module with the 3.2 release, but it was actually just on master branch back then. It wasn't on 3.2. So now it's where it finally became stable. And there were also, speaking of SDPs and mangling, there was some work done on the back-to-back module, which now natively module, it kind of just makes it a lot so wrapper over RTP proxy and RTP engine, right? There is this higher level RTP relay module that makes it easier for you to script things. There was this problem of, for example, you establish the session, right? And that alone is cumbersome. You have to give it the proper flags on the invite, give it the proper flags on the 200 OK, and then remember them because there might be a re-invite, right? And you have to also do the same flags there, otherwise things will break. So all of that now is being done behind the curtains if you just use RTP relay. And the cool part is you can flip-flop between RTP proxy or engine, right? The same code will work. So it might be cool for you to look into that. We also added this completely new status and reporting interface, which could help with automation or maybe building like nice web interfaces that give you some idea over what is going on, because lots of people, complained, maybe not really complained, just brought to our attention the fact that I don't know what's going on with the reload, right? Is it still going? Has it finished? Can I send traffic now, or when is the right time, right? So the status report will provide this will solve this problem. I mean, not fully now, right? I mean, we just started adding some events into it and reporting, but as we go, we will keep on building upon it. Yeah, so it uses these identifiers. For example, let's take an example like derouting, right? You get an identifier for each partition, which you can then query for status. Okay, so here's some examples, right? You get data available, aggregated, running, or you can query for reports. And yeah, it's configurable here. By default, it will remember the last 20 events happening on that specific code base. For example, here we want to list reports from the core, right? This is OpenSIPS initializing, and then a couple seconds later completed, and it's ready. Here is with a reload. It says when the reload started, when it completed, and some stats about the gateways and carriers, and some useful information there. Also some work on the TCP layer, where we gave you more flexibility to fine-grain control the connections taking place. For example, back then, I mean, before 3.3, you would only set some global parameters on the TCP connections once, and that would be it. But now you can take it to each connection level. For example, here we have a setup where we got connections which are close to us, so we'd rather have a small timeout, and connections which are far apart, so we would like those to have a larger timeout, right? Fine-grained control. So we bundled all of those parameters into this TCP connection profile, and now you can just write DB entries with a profile and associate them to either one server or more servers on that kind of stuff. And last but not least, we had this security audit that made things all the more stable, and we helped discover a lot of crashes in there, and all the fixes are pushed. So I would like to thank all the community for contributing to that huge effort. There is a list of bugs if you want to run through them, published. And I would like also to give credits to my team and for all the work done there. Like, I didn't work that much on the MSRP side. It's mostly Vlad and Bogdan, so kudos to them. So yeah, that was it. Let me know if you have any questions, and thank you.
No, you got it.
Hey, thanks. Interesting presentation. Are there any production deployments for this feature yet that you know about?
So with MSRP part,
Yeah.
Not yet. We are still kind of what we did with Diameter, right? Where we started the discussion, we pushed the first version of the support, and now let's see some feedback, right? Is it enough? So we're kind of doing the same thing with these parts as well, because there isn't. It is strange when you don't get kind of a specific, requirements to implement, right? You never know what to go. You kind of have to explore. So that's how it is. So it's, yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
All right.
Well,
Oh, okay.
Did you have issues with TCP fragmentation, since we're talking about MSRP? And did you test with, I don't know, real devices? and all that?
Yeah,
Or other, let's say, other voice over IP servers?
Yeah, that's a good question. As far as I know, I am effectively being a relay over here. We tested with like just select few open source clients that handle MSRP to begin with, because many of them don't. So for example, we used Blink from AG Projects. That one kind of was good enough to get things tested. But yeah, as far as kind of a server-to-server test and all that, I'm not sure we have yet to fully stress test it, let me say. And also, it's worth mentioning about the chunking support in MSRP, and that is still on the roadmap, I think. So we have to build it into. Right. That could come useful, for example, with the file transfers, which when you get large volumes of data, you need to push through TCP. So, okay, so thank you very much again.
Thank you so much, Liviu. And as usual, always a great presentation. And, well, move on to the last speaker for this morning. And, of course, well, I've said it, but maybe I'll make a list for later to have everything in one place. So at 1, it will be SignalWire Demos for the Coder Games, 3:30, the Road Show, and Dangerous Demos are at 2 p.m. Don't miss them, because they will be dangerous. Maybe stand a few extra feet away from the stage just in case, because stuff has caught on fire occasionally. And our last but not least speaker for this morning is our very own Alex Rowell from SignalWire, our community relations manager, who's going to speak about open source communities and when and how to get involved, which is a theme that's very dear to my heart because we've spoken about it at length in ClueCon Weekly, the open source panel, and other teams. So I'm sure it's going to be super entertaining. So big round of applause for Alex. And you have the stage.
All right, I think I might have just spoiled the surprise there. So, hey, I'm going to get right into it. This is the talk that I planned to give today, and this is the talk that I prepared. And then I've spent the last couple days talking to community members, hearing feedback, hearing what you want to talk about and what you want to see. And so this is no longer the talk I'm going to give. For folks that are interested in this talk, sorry, Luca. I'll be posting this as a blog and making the slides available in the coming weeks. But so for those of you that already tuned out, because it looks like this talk is going to be about social media, I think this will be a little more interesting. Just so everyone has context, you've been hearing from me all week up here, and I've been hearing from you in the hallways, in events, between speakers, and even online. I want to make this time valuable to the people here. So here's the talk you actually asked for. Let's talk free switch. I'm going to try to address a lot of the feedback we've been hearing. I won't have all the answers today, obviously, or all the solutions, but I'm going to do my best to answer what I can. And I'm also going to leave some extra time at the end for questions from the audience, for folks that haven't talked to me yet. So let's start with the big one. The latest release. Let's be real, you don't want to hear about it from me. You want to hear about it from the devs. So we're going to get Andre up here in just a minute. And for those of you that don't know, Andre is the one currently driving FreeSwitch releases and reviewing the community contributions as well. He wasn't able to be here in person, so he's joining us virtually. So go ahead and take it away, Andre.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrey Volk. I joined SignalWire in 2018 once they started. was contributing to FreeSwitch before that. You may know some of my work, like the database interface in FreeSwitch, mod MariaDB. I keep the lights on for the Windows build, packaging, and I've never been in ClueCon. Hopefully one day I will see all of you in person, but finally I'm there with you. So thanks to that amazing technology we have today. Speaking of the announcement, I'm here today to tell you that FreeSwitch 1.10.8 is out. This is a regular bug fix release. As you already know from the discussions on the community roundtable, we are focusing on testing a lot today. And not only that, we are focusing on the code quality as well. We have resolved static analysis bugs in all FreeSwitch core and modules. We went through static analysis for Sophia SIP library. We use it in mod Sophia in FreeSwitch and resolve those issues as well. Tools helping us with that get improved, and they find more bugs. And so we revisit static analysis all the time. Also, I should mention that there were a few security issues reported in libsophia. We're hosting our projects on GitHub, and people can come and file a security advisory. Hopefully, so far, issues have been well described and in a good academic language. That really helps. So we fixed all of them, and solutions have been published. So I encourage you to use the latest Sophia SIP library for security reasons. We use the whole bunch of different tools to keep things running. And sometimes there are bugs and not our bugs. So for example, a few days ago, I found a bug in the tool we use for Debian, to make Debian repos, and FreeSwitch for Raspberry Pi for Debian 11 was affected. It was just silently misbehaving, and I had to repair the repo. And I believe that is fixed now. Another example, a few weeks ago on Windows Festival, FreeSwitch just to open FreeSwitch solution in Microsoft Visual Studio, it is so big, so you really need the latest Visual Studio, as they improved the speed just recently. In that IDE, there is a helpful feature. When you investigate something, you can point to a symbol in a source file and hit F12 or right-click and find all references, so you could see where a particular thing is used. And if you download one of the latest Visual Studio 2022 preview, they just stopped working. Hopefully, there is a feedback button, and we filed the issue, and Microsoft fixed that in a week. So don't forget, upgrade libsophia, and that's it for me, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Andre. All right, that's the big one out of the way. So next up, I want to talk about some pain points that we're working to address with FreeSwitch and that I hear from you guys quite a bit. Now, I know most of you haven't spoken to me yet, and that working on a fix, awesome, it comes across the dodge. But I'm not going to talk about anything today that isn't already in the works or already done. Some of the things are moving kind of slowly, but they are moving. So the entire open source roundtable agreed documentation is a huge pain point for most open source, and FreeSwitch is no different. I've mentioned it in passing online, but we're looking at a better documentation solution than Confluence, because it works really well when a small and controlled group is making the edits, but it really falls apart when we're having a larger group wanting to contribute and wanting to make those changes. And what we're looking for is a solution that's more capable of handling those larger groups, makes it easier for first-time contributors as well as the long-term contributors, and makes it a little more obvious what changed on the page when it tells you that the thing was edited recently, right? So as we're making that migration, we'll be looking for community input and for folks who want to collaborate and get involved there. Next up, PRs and issues. So currently, majority of issues filed are not actionable, and the poster often doesn't respond to us when we ask them for more information. Similarly, many of the PRs are not in a state where we can pull them in. So we're working on refining the code contribution guidelines. They exist, but we do want to extend them, and making requirements for issues. Nothing super out there, just things like repro steps and logs so that we can take those issues and act on them. That'll help us respond more quickly to the PRs. It'll keep everyone on the same page, and overall, it'll make the bug reports more actionable. Now, it's been a while since FreeSwitch has had position like bug marshals, but after we have those clear guidelines in place, we're going to be looking for folks to volunteer for that as well. So also, full disclosure, I want to call out that when those guidelines are put in place, we are likely going to be closing a lot of old issues and bugs, and a lot of the PRs that don't meet those guidelines. We're going to reach out as much as possible so folks know the what and the why of that happening and know how to resubmit within the guidelines, but this is just a heads up for the folks here. Next up, we've got the forums. So people have been requesting a searchable forum for years, and we've been working on the forums for a few months now. Slack moved recently in September to strict 3-month retention for the free plan, which really moved up our timeline for this and got us bringing it live as soon as possible. Before that switch, we had about 6 months of history, but the 3 months is pretty rough. And that's not to say the forum is going to be replacing Slack. It absolutely is not. But there's a place for conversations both in the forum and in Slack. Our intention with the forum is that it be for more of the long-form conversations, things where if you don't catch it right then, you're not going to get to participate in Slack. Basically what we're doing right now is either we can create a thread and it scrolls up and you miss it, or we create another channel and it just divides your attention. It's another place to pay attention to. And also for new joiners or for people that didn't see that message, it's incidentally excluding them. So, sorry. Also, every few months, it's just gone. These people are giving answers and contributing, and then, 3 months later, we brought it up in the open roundtable. That work is gone, and it's not archived, it's not searchable. So instead, we're looking to bring those troubleshooting conversations and the things that aren't just immediate conversation into the forum, so it actually is preserved and searchable. So as we're making these spaces and putting the time and energy in to be present in them, we want to hear what you want and what you need a day or a week later. We don't expect people to contribute every day or to talk every day, but check in, tell us what you're thinking. The first big one for that is there's a thread in the forums for office hours. Currently, we're doing those once a month, and for people that don't know about the office hours, it's a time where the FreeSwitch devs are just there to answer questions, talk about PRs. They're troubleshooting, they're doing best practices. We've approved PRs live in the office hours. And it's a chance for you to talk to the devs directly, get your questions answered, in addition to ClueCon. So the forums have a post, it's a poll. Tell us what times you can make. Currently, we're doing the first one at 9 in the morning Pacific, and we want to make sure that we have a time that's accessible for everyone. So if you want to join, you want to participate in that, forums.signalwire.community. Tell us what you think. If there's multiple that work for you, absolutely. And we're going to be starting that in November, so get your votes in soon so we can set it up. One more thing on the office hours is that we've heard folks want a clear agenda. Right now it's pretty free-form by design. When folks register, they can tell us what they want to talk about, but a lot of folks just drop in every time and they don't have a specific agenda. I'm going to put up a sheet, basically a Google sheet, so folks can just add to it and everyone can see it. It's transparent. And then you can tell us what you want to talk about and we can have a little more structure. And Brian will thank me for that one. And last off, I want to say thank you to some folks. Thank you to the people that have come and talked to me this week, given me feedback on the event, on the talks, and in general. This talk is better for it, and I'm going to take it and keep running with it. Thank you to the community members here that are hacking on free switch bugs and contributing code. Your work and your contributions are invaluable. And thank you to the people who are present in the Slack, who are present in the mailing list, trading 5 minutes of their time for 20 hours of frustration for the asker. It's such a small effort to share that knowledge, but it makes such a huge impact on the people asking. Open source isn't possible without the community, and it's always a two-way street. So for everyone participating in the free switch community, I see you and I appreciate you. And that's all I've got today. I said I'd leave time for questions. Before I open the floor, if you want to talk more about anything at all, I've got my contacts here, handles, if you care about those. And just send me an email. I'm more than happy to talk, and I'll be here all day. Thank you for listening, and I'll open the floor. No questions. All right, we might just go to lunch a few minutes early, if Luca allows it.
Well,
All right.
means you were very thorough, right?
Well, thank you, everyone.
So, big round of applause for Alex for putting up for some things we were guilty of from time to time when it comes to community and questions and stuff, me included. So thank you very much. Cool. So this closes our morning. And my magic binder is telling me that, first of all, we have a drawing for the invisibility cloak. Oh. And lunch is upstairs, where it was located yesterday in Geneva and Currents. And there's the OpenSIPS Lunch and Learn in the SignalWire lunch at 12:30, so we'll wait for you there. SignalWire Demos at 11, at 1, whatever, yeah. I'm still jet lagged, like my brain has left the building. And 3:30 is going to be the roadshow. And you're still live.
Yeah.
No worries.
Still alive. Thank you.
Cool. So I'll see you later and enjoy the rest of your day. Or the drawing. Well, you thought I was forgetting, right? I was actually forgetting. Give her a spin and a whirl. And usual blind kid picking the ticket out. So what we have here is number 381113. 381113. Got ourselves a winner. Okay, so no? Did we get ourselves a winner? We did. Okay, cool. So make sure you take a good look at him because this is an invisibility cloak. So I don't know what's going to happen. So we're not going to see Jeffrey again. Well, that's perfect for those long meetings you don't want to attend. Cool. So, well, again, it's been a pleasure being with you today, and I'll see you later. We'll be around. Come upstairs for a drink after a road show. We're always here. Enjoy.
suppose you all know how to use one of these things, but in case you don't, you just press down this lever with your thumb and then pull the trigger. They share one thing, they all need money. Now let's see if they're brave enough to earn it.
Talking to the sky. We are dreamers of a different kind. You're a dreamer, so am I. I like dragons, I like butterflies. I make wishes talking to the sky. We are dreamers of a different kind.
These leaves, they come from a plant called the Vedic One, the plant of evil. Do you know about such a plant? These leaves work. They're used to put an evil spell on people.
Now listen, Taro, don't accuse me of using magic.
You're a dreamer, so am I. I like dragons, I like butterflies. I make wishes talking to the sky. We are dreamers of a different kind.
There's nothing like a nice cold bath.
I can think of something even better.
There's nothing like a nice cold bath.
I can think of something even better. Better.
misguided little girl who got herself all tangled up about sex, who wrote a poor, misguided, tangled up book about sex that was read by hundreds of thousands of poor, misguided people who were all tangled up about sex. Follow me? So why don't you call that a bad job and do better?
Hey, folks. We're about to start the SignalWire demos, but before we do that, if the folks that are participating could send someone up from their team to come talk to me, that would be great.
And we have pretzels too.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. We're going to kick off the afternoon here. Hope you all had a good morning, good lunchtime. Mira, I know you did. Always having fun. So here we go. We're heading into the last little bit of the old sessions here. So the announcements for right now are, again, thank you all for coming out, really, honestly. Thank you for coming from all over the world. It's so wonderful to see everybody in person and have a chance to do this. I hope you have had a chance to meet some new people and learn some new things and having a good time, because that's what it's all about. So again, thank you all for taking the time to come. Really amazing to see everybody. There will be a survey sent out by the ClueCon organizers, and they would deeply and greatly appreciate if you would fill that out, just to let them know things you liked about the conference, things you can improve, things that can be done. Your input to them is invaluable, and they would love if you would help fill out that survey when it goes out. All right, and then next up, we're going to get a drawing going off here. So let's get one last drawing. Actually, maybe not the last one. There's actually a couple drawings. But this one over here, this is for a Lego build-on brick mug and a pair of SignalWire socks. These are limited edition. You cannot buy these in stores. You can wear them proudly in ski boots or just regular shoes if you're a normal person. So let's see here. Oh, Dovid, come on, last minute. Get him in there. Yeah, all right. How many did you get that many? Oh, yeah, awesome. All right. Here we go. Around and around she goes. And the winner is, open it up. We're looking at number 320433. 433. 320433. I'll take a 432 or a 431 as well. Anywhere 433? 432? Is 433? Oh, still 434? Oh, you guys want to split? One of you want socks, one of you want mug? Who? Yeah, okay. I'll pull another number. I guess we'll do it the fair way. All right, we'll do it the real way. All right, let's do it again. If we can't share, somebody gets it all. It's the American way. All right, let's see here. This winning ticket is 741. 741. I'm just saying, 741? Hey, all right. Sweet. Come get your prize, my man. Yeah, let's get up. Yeah, exactly. We reward blind luck. Awesome, bud. You deserve it. Confirmed. Thank you. Thank you. Give it up. All right, here we go. So there we go. That's that prize done. Let's see what's on the old sheet here. I think next up is, yes, all right, Ms. Alex Rowell needs to come up here and talk about doing SignalWire Demos. There's a demos here. Alex, you ready to talk about that?
If I could turn my mic on, yes.
All right.
I'm so ready. All right. So this is the demos. We started this on Monday. Don't worry, I'm coming up on stage. I was just far away. All right. So we've got 4 teams competing for the live judging portion of this. Every team that is demoing is going to get the cash prize because they're making an open source contribution based on SignalWire. But the big prize is the tablet. So that's what we're fighting for today.
What kind of tablet?
Samsung
A
tablet.
Samsung tablet. Samsung, thank you for the tablet.
Sorry, Samsung tablet.
Samsung tablet.
All right, so I'm just going to start inviting teams up. First team, are you guys ready? Team Orem. Are we looking at the Drake?
Yeah, we're looking at the Drake. Yeah, make sure you send in your speaker talks for next year as well.
Yes, please do. This is your reminder. I heard a couple speaker proposals already, so if you haven't done it when we told you to do it, you should. All right.
So, do we just introduce ourselves again? Oh, okay. So, hi, we're Team Orem.
Where's the HDMI over here? Oh, I found it. Yeah.
Okay. For our challenge, we decided to make an app called three-factor authentication. It's the most misleading name ever because it doesn't add a third factor. So what it does is that you make an account, you log onto our web app, and you're given a phone number. And we know that for two-factor authentication, a lot of systems require SMS only, unfortunately, which kind of really sucks. So we made this web app to receive those SMS messages that you can just look at them here without having to have your phone. But on top of that, we also allow you to share your phone number with other people on the system so that if you have a team that unfortunately is tied to one SMS number, you don't have to wait for that one person to be like, oh, what's the two-factor code? Can you send me the two-factor code? Which really sucks. So that is our app, three-factor authentication. And here's a demo. Do you want to talk?
Oh, sure. Yeah, if anyone saw on Monday, I already kind of showed part of it, but here, I guess to show the first part, I'm just going to text this number at the top here, and then you'll see it pop up on the bottom. Oh yeah, and well, yeah, I'll get to that. Yeah, I guess just look at this one for now. Uh-oh.
The curse of live demo. Is it registered in context?
I don't know. Okay, so that part's not working, but it definitely works usually.
Maybe text the other number.
Yeah, I could try texting the other number. Let's see, what is it? 1207 813. Yeah, no, something about the registering is not working. Totally worked every time before this. But then, yeah, I guess I'll just show the other part. So if you want to share numbers, yeah, a little bit ago I put in the email of this user, put it in here, wrote invite, and then if this person hits accept, then then they will now see all the messages that go to this number as well. And then, these buttons just let you either stop sharing or stop being shared with. Either way, that's about it.
Thanks, guys. Next up, we've got the 4 Musketeers. Ooh, I see a car coming up, as indicated by the name.
All right, so we have a kind of a double entry here. This is first for the SignalWire API challenge, but it's also going to be a dangerous demo later with a couple of modifications, so please stick around for that. I had this idea sort of like inspired by Twitch Plays Pokemon to do basically a conference and text message driven sort of game where everybody can sort of provide crowdsourced entries to moving this cart and see if we can, get it from start to finish. So I'm just going to get everybody to set up everything here. We've got a dashboard that'll have the video feed as well as sort of what the leading set of votes is for controlling the car. And this cart is connected over Bluetooth.
Just want to make sure, do we have audio?
I hear it on Mac.
Are we decimator? Decimator.
No, I don't think that's the one. What's the HDMI output for sound? I don't know.
No.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
It's
this?
back in here. You're fully connected. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. All right, let's go. Camera feed. All right, so we got our camera feed, and we're waiting for votes for controlling the car. Micah here is going to control the car using text messages to start. That's a go command. A stop command sends you backwards.
Go left, you idiot. I'm always right. Go left, you idiot.
So that's done with text messages, and he's going to try now with a call in.
Watch out, dummy. Back left, you idiot. Watch out, dummy. Watch out, you idiot. Watch out, dummy.
Oh, getting close to the edge.
Go left, you idiot. Watch out, dummy.
Oh no!
Ooh.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, anyway, that is our little dangerous demo, but there's going to be some enhanced stuff later. So, and this was built with the Signal